If these choke points fail, the global economy collapses. Not slowly, not eventually, but all at once. Because the global system doesn't run on countries. It runs on a few critical choke points. And if they break, everything else follows. This is where it gets dangerous. Right now, most people are watching the headlines, wars, markets, politics, but the real risk is hidden beneath all of that. Because behind every crisis, there is a choke point. And if even one of them fails, the chain reaction begins. This is what nobody is talking about. The global economy is not built for resilience. It's built for efficiency. And efficiency breaks under pressure. By the end of this video, you'll understand how a handful of choke points control global trade, energy, technology, and why their failure could trigger a global collapse. But first, we need to understand one thing. What exactly is a choke point? And why does it have so much power over the entire system? This is where everything starts to break. A choke point is a narrow path through which a massive amount of global activity flows. It could be a strait, a canal, or even a single region. And because so much depends on it, it becomes a point of vulnerability. If it works, everything flows. If it fails, everything stops. Now think about that. A global system, dependent on a few narrow paths. This is what nobody is prepared for. Because when people think about economic power, they think about countries. But power is concentrated in choke points. Let's start with one of the most critical. The Strait of Hormuz. Nearly 20% of global oil supply flows through this narrow passage every single day. This is where it gets critical, because oil is not just a commodity, it's a systemic resource. It powers transportation, industry, electricity, everything. So when this choke point is threatened, oil supply drops, prices spike, inflation rises, and the chain reaction begins. This is where everything starts to collapse. Because inflation forces central banks to act. They raise interest rates, and higher interest rates slow down the economy. This is how a disruption in one location spreads across the entire world. But Hormuz is just one piece of the puzzle. This is what nobody is talking about. There are multiple choke points, all connected, all critical. Now let's move to another one. The Suez Canal, a narrow passage, but responsible for nearly 12% of global trade connecting Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. When this choke point was blocked, even briefly, global trade slowed instantly. Ships were delayed, supply chains were disrupted, costs increased. This is where it gets dangerous, because the global economy depends on timing. Not just movement, but precision. When timing breaks, everything begins to fall apart. This is how one blockage creates global disruption. Now here's where everything changes. Not all choke points are physical. Some are invisible. And even more powerful. Consider Taiwan a small island, but responsible for a massive share of global semiconductor production. These chips power phones, cars, AI systems, military technology. Now imagine that supply being disrupted. Factories stop, production slows, entire industries freeze. This is where it gets dangerous, because the modern economy runs on technology, and technology depends on a single choke point. This is what nobody is prepared for. The system is not just fragile, it's concentrated. Power is not spread out, it is focused in a few critical nodes. Now connect everything. Energy flows through Hormuz, trade flows through Suez, technology flows through Taiwan, and finance flows through global markets. This is the system. And this is why it's so vulnerable. Because if multiple choke points fail, at the same time, the impact is not linear. It multiplies. This is where everything starts to collapse. Now think about the world today. Rising geopolitical tensions, trade conflicts, economic competition, all increasing pressure on these choke points. This is where it gets dangerous, because choke points are not just risks, they are leverage. Control the choke point, and you control the system. This is the silent war happening behind the scenes. Now imagine this scenario. Multiple choke points fail at the same time. Oil supply drops, trade slows, technology supply is disrupted, all at once. This is not just a crisis, this is a systemic breakdown. Now layer this with another reality. The world is carrying over $300 trillion in debt. So when shocks happen, the system has less room to respond. Interest rates rise, growth slows, debt becomes harder to manage, and the cracks begin to spread. This is how choke points trigger global collapse. But here's the twist. Not all countries will be affected equally. Some depend heavily on these choke points. Others have alternatives. This creates winners and losers. In every crisis, power shifts. And those who understand the system see it coming. If you want to understand how this starts, watch my video on the Strait of Hormuz next, because that's where the first crack appears. And if you want to understand where this leads, I'll break down how this triggers a global recession in the next video. Subscribe to Atlas Economics, because those who understand the system will always stay ahead.